Hello and welcome to Film Seizure, week 3 of our spooky month of movies. I'm Chuck Moore. With me, as always, are Jeff Spooky Arbuckle.
Whoa, Spooky Arbuckle.
And Jason Kinda Scary Oliver.
Rawr.
Rawr, rawr, rawr. This week we are covering Wes Craven's 1996 film, Scream. It's a Scream, baby. It's a Scream, baby. I think this is the first movie I ever asked to do on this show. You asked me for a list before I showed up, and we ended up doing another Wes Craven film as my first.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
I feel like I am to blame.
Well, I don't even. You're not, because the list didn't get past Jason. Like when he asked
fair
me
enough.
at first,
But he was probably thinking,
maybe,
Probably.
maybe.
I might have been gatekeeping.
Yeah, a little gatekeeping. But it was good. It's good. I'm glad we waited to do this movie.
No, and okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start off with a statement here.
Official statement by Jeff Arbuckle.
Official statement from the desk of co-founder of Film Seizure, Jeff Arbuckle. So I have long been on the record, and by long I mean like for at least 20 years, been on the record of not really giving this movie its due. And a lot of it, I will admit, comes from being disappointed with the trend that this movie started, which is technically not this movie's fault. So, first and foremost, I will say this movie is not at fault for the things I say it's at fault for.
Right.
And second, I will still say that I think this movie, in my opinion, is a touch overrated. And I know that there is at least one person at this table who disagrees with that, and that's fine. But that said, this is a very fun movie, and it is a movie that is worthy of the appreciation it has. I also have somewhat of a weird relationship with Wes Craven, because as much as I like Nightmare on Elm Street, and I really like the ones he is involved in, 1, 3, and New Nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, those are 3 excellent horror movies.
He's no John Carpenter.
He's not John Carpenter, in my opinion. He's not. He's not David Cronenberg. He's not Brian De Palma. People we've talked about this month up to this point. But he. I will say that. I like a lot of his movies. I like Last House on the Left. I do not think that's a scary movie because those cops ruined that movie. The stupid, dumb, goofy cops.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that one.
It totally takes out the toughness of that movie. Whereas it would have fit in this movie, and does, to have the kind of pathetic cop. The well-meaning but pathetic cop. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, I think sometimes Wes Craven gets send your complaints to Jason Oliver on this one.
I thought I owned the complaint department.
This week it's Jason.
Okay.
I don't think Wes Craven's the master that people think he is.
I'm trying to formulate a response, not necessarily a
You better
counter.
work on it, because you're about to get all the emails.
It's not necessarily a counter response. I do also agree that Wes Craven is a bit overrated. He's responsible for one of the big 3 horror icons of the 80s, and he made a lot of hay on that.
And he certainly did things I enjoy. Like, I like the Swamp Thing movie. I like Deadly Friend, although you still have to look at that movie, and at one point Christy Swanson blows a lady's head up with a basketball, and that's dumb as fuck. But that's why I like that, because it's dumb as fuck.
He is responsible, though, for some pretty iconic horror films, even Last House on the Left.
Sure.
Definitely Nightmare on Elm Street. The Hills Have Eyes.
Sure.
Also another
Scream
classic. I'm getting there. And yeah, to some degree, Scream. I am very, very partial to The People Under the Stairs. And then also a lot of people really like, and I agree, The Serpent and Rainbow is also a very good movie.
Sure.
He's made good movies. Do I think he's as good as Carpenter? No. Do I think he's better than Mick Garris? Fuck yes. Right?
Fair enough. Yeah, well, sure. If that's our
But if we're talking
scale.
like a master of horror, like I don't know why, but Mick Garris either appointed himself that or somebody did. And I think Wes Craven is far and away a better filmmaker than Mick Garris is. So I don't know. I think it's just like splitting hairs. But you're right. I wouldn't put him ahead of De Palma. I wouldn't put him ahead of Cronenberg. I wouldn't put him ahead of Carpenter. Wouldn't put him ahead of Romero. So, but yeah, we're here to talk about Scream.
Yeah.
Which, again, back to what I was saying. While I think it is still maybe a tad overrated, I think it is still a very enjoyable movie.
I fucking love this movie.
Fair enough.
I gotta get in
You
here.
guys finish up.
Yeah. This movie to me is perfect.
And that's a fair. I'm not going to take that away from you at all.
I don't think it's the best horror film ever made, but it's my favorite. There's some contenders there,
Sure,
obviously, but I can watch this movie anytime. I can watch this movie on Christmas Eve. Like
well, it was practically released on Christmas Eve.
Yes, it was. It was.
Yeah, that's another weird thing about this. This era of horror gets released at weird time. Like Halloween started coming out in August.
Yeah.
This was released in Christmas time. I think one of the sequels was released in the spring.
And wasn't this the first horror film to make like $100 million in the theater? It was one of the first to do something like that. Like
that's probably true. Like
the genre was kind of dead in the 90s. Like,
oh yeah, the slasher died with the 80s.
Yes, and this movie, for better or worse, brought it back. And a lot of, like you said, the stuff that followed it is worse.
Yeah,
but it's kind of like you already explained this, the Pearl Jam thing. Eddie Vedder is blamed for lots of bad singers and vocalists and music and stuff like that. But that shouldn't take away from him.
Nope. No.
So I don't know.
No, because he was part of a genre of music that saved the world for a few years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
At least for us.
From headbang or hair metal.
Well, from hair metal and from really weird pop.
Yeah, and some bad rap at the time.
And the bad rap. Oh, yep.
I mean, I like hip hop. I will not talk ill of hip hop or rap in general, but there was some bad stuff at the time.
I recently witnessed a lot of really bad.
So until 2018, Scream was the highest grossing slasher of all time.
Until Halloween, right?
Until Halloween 2018.
And Scream 2 is Scream number 3, I think.
And I think Scream took over from Halloween, at least as far as profitability.
Yeah, Scream 1 and Scream 2 were number 1 and 2 in the slasher genre.
And that's I mean, that's about right. So
it's fall. Yeah, after Halloween and Scream, it's Scream 2 and Scream 3. Yeah.
Wow, even Scream 3?
Yeah.
Scream 3 is not as good.
No, that movie is trash.
I thought for a second there he was disagreeing the other way.
It's bad. Like
that was the one that made me think.
I thought for some reason I thought when I saw 4 that was bad, but no, 3 is far and away worse.
I like 1, 2, and 4 enough.
4 on the second watch actually liked better.
I didn't see the 4th one because 3 was enough for me.
4 is good. 4 is. I think it's worth a watch. It's not groundbreaking. It's not amazing, but it's worth a watch.
If 4 kind of plays on the tropes in a different way because it's trying to like kind of reboot itself, and it plays on that a little bit. It's so
what's coming out next year? Is that actually a reboot or is that a remake?
No, it is not a reboot because the original characters are in it.
Okay.
But I think it's a new terror and a new main character.
So not Screamface anymore?
No, I think a new terror meaning I don't think it's supposed to be related to the Sidney Prescott killings. Maybe it is, but she goes home to try to solve murders that are happening in her town.
Okay, so she's now the adult.
Is she the
Yeah,
Gail
she's
Weathers?
kind of the Gail Weathers, but I think Gail Weathers is also in the movie.
She was kind of like that in 4 also.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this, I am cautiously optimistic because the guys who did it are doing it. Did Ready or Not, which I fucking love.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
I'll go
So
check it
I
out.
think it's in good hands. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, you can't do worse than 3 and 4. I don't think. Maybe you can, but
I also don't really like 2.
2 has problems, but I really like it.
I like the beginning of 2. I like all the stuff with Stab and the movie within the movie at the beginning of that movie. I think that's all really I know, right? I was like,
Can you say that sentence without the word
of
movie?
Inception.
It's very Inception like.
But that movie kind of starts to lose me. There are some good scare set pieces, but
That's the one that ends at the stage.
Yeah,
theater with
with
Cotton
theater. Rosie and
Weary.
Sister.
Yes. Okay.
yeah, Rosie
But
and
let's
Sister.
talk about that one at another date. I'll make you guys
Maybe.
talk about that in
Maybe.
like 3 years.
Well, maybe. See, look,
Maybe
he's
we'll
already
talk
gate
about
this this shit.
This is a good one.
This is good. This is
Let's
good.
talk about this.
Let's do it.
I
Let's-
want to get my thing out of the way here.
Oh,
Chuck,
okay.
Chuck is his favorite horror film of all time. Jeff has reappraised it, and it gives it a come see come saw. I when I saw this movie, I was blown the fuck away.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I was 18 years old, but I was blown away. Like I saw it in the theater. It was on the re-release.
Same with me.
I saw it because it was released in April, I believe, of 1997, and I saw it in the theater. I saw it in the old Triple at the mall.
I don't even remember if I saw this in the theater or not.
I saw it by myself because I didn't really have I didn't have any fucking friends.
Spooky. Well,
Yeah, I mean, I just moved here. I didn't know anybody other than
Don't know why I responded
other
that
than my
way.
buddy Mike. I think that was like the only friend I had, and so I didn't know anybody. I was like, oh, I heard a lot about this movie, so I rode my bike to the Greenville Park Mall, and I watched it in the Triple. It was a daytime matinee, and there was no one else in the theater, and it was pretty damn effective.
Yeah.
Like that, especially that opening scene. It's still the scene that kind of like, okay, all right, yeah, there's a little bit of magic there.
there's that opening scene is something that belongs in whenever there's a history of horror thing.
It's perfection.
It's there. It's got to be there, and it has to be, because without this movie, we're not getting a lot of the movies we get today.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of did for horror going forward, for better or worse, that Halloween did for better or worse to drive the night.
Well, we'll
the
get-
80s.
We'll get to
it's
that.
it's the perfect thing is it's like the MTV style, right? Of getting the point across much faster, right? And that came a big part of the 90s and the editing, right? Well, this is essentially the first scene in Scream is the entire first act of Psycho.
Right.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
and it's crazy too because, and probably part of the reason you were blown away, this movie was sold as Drew Barrymore as
Right.
the star.
That's why I was saying
of
it's
the film.
it's the first act of Psycho.
Yeah,
they
they
kill
kill her
off
off and-
Janet Leigh. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
This is the era in which Miramax, who made all the horror movies, it seemed like, or most of them, would just put publicity stills of the actors and actresses on the cover, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
okay, this doesn't tell me anything other than pretty people are in it.
It was yes. It was the beginning of the like the headshot
Poster.
Poster,
Yeah.
yeah, the floating head poster. Yeah,
But she's right there front and center.
right. Oh yeah. I mean,
You know.
she's the name.
Yeah.
Let's face it. I mean,
She sold the movie.
Nev Campbell was sort of known, but
Lillard,
Drew Barrymore.
Ulrich,
Drew
nope.
Barrymore. Wow, Drew Barrymore was the name. Yeah.
Drew Barrymore.
Oh my god.
I thought you were struggling with Barry Hill,
Holy
and then
hell.
you went there.
Oh yes.
Why is Joe not
I think
here?
my brain just broke. Yes, that Drew lady,
Yes.
that pretty lady.
So let's talk about that beginning. Right? Do you have anything else you want to say before we?
Bad dye jobs all over this movie.
No, other than I think after the first movie, the next Scream movies became event movies.
Sure.
Right.
Kind of like Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. And that was kind of, these were in a way my Friday the 13th movies, because I didn't experience, that with the, a little bit to the tail end of the Freddy movies.
Right.
Right. It was really the closest I really got in the tail end of the Friday the 13th movies. But these were really like big event movies for me.
Yeah.
What's funny is that, by the time I'm going to the movies, my event horror movies were the Halloween movies, which
I didn't see a Halloween movie in the theater until H2O.
I saw them all. All the ones I think I even saw 3 when I was a little kid.
Well, you definitely didn't see 1 and 2. I mean, you said you saw them all, but
No, those were on TV all the time. But like pretty much from 3 forward, I think I saw them all in the theater.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's mostly not good.
No, they're not.
they're not even good. That's why I think I appreciate, and I'm getting off the rails here a little bit, the Friday the 13th series more than the Halloween series.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're enjoyable down the line while they're bad. Some of the Halloween films are just fucking bad.
Right.
Like not enjoyable, not fun.
I don't like most of them.
I can handle, like 4 is where I draw the line. It's like, okay, it's got to at least be as good as 4.
Right.
And H2O surpassed that one. But 5 I can handle up to a certain point. 6 I look at kind of sideways because I want to I kind of want to figure it out. Yeah, it's like I kind of want to figure that one out. Resurrection's fucking garbage. Let's talk about Scream.
Yeah, let's talk about Scream. So we have Drew Barrymore at her house, and she's making popcorn. Like she's about to watch a scary movie, and she gets a call. And this isn't, I guess this call is kind of famous. The hello, Sydney is like,
well, yeah, Sydney is the line, but yeah, right.
But she gets called. She thinks it's a prank call or a wrong number. And eventually this person like outs themselves as like, they want to know her name and they want to know who they're looking at. And she's like, wait a minute, what?
Yep.
And they're like, I want to know who I'm talking to. Right. So we have this whole kind of calls over and over again. He tells her, if you hang up on me, I'm going to gut you like a fish. And this is when okay, shit's serious. Go ahead, Jason.
And it's calling back kind of like 70s horror here too, right? Like,
don't answer the phone.
Black Christmas, right?
Even going back to When a Stranger Calls.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yes. So this movie is heavily gives credence to what came before it, like constantly. Well, it almost overdoes it.
It's his biggest strength, and sometimes its weakness. Yeah.
We'll talk about Kevin Williamson. I got things.
Sometimes it's a little. It thinks it's more clever than it is, and I think it's those moments that age it for me.
Right.
Bingo. That's exactly what I was about to say. It's like at the time, and for 5 or 10 years after, but 25 years on, I'm like, these people, I would not hang out with these people.
It feels a little bit like a history lesson at times instead of like,
well, it's just, it feels like, ain't I cool because I watch these movies? And it's like, no, you're not. Trust me. It takes one to know one. I know you're not cool.
At that age, for me, and I get what you guys are saying and why it dates you. At that age, for me, it was cool to follow these breadcrumbs of stuff that I really hadn't checked out yet.
And
there's an homage there to get me to watch it. I mean, I had seen Halloween. That was really probably my favorite horror film ever is Halloween or The Shining, but Scream is up there.
Sure.
I just jumping far ahead. The way Halloween is integrated into the parts of the final act, I think is probably my favorite part of this movie in retrospect. Now seeing it, I know I've seen this movie probably 3 times.
That is clever.
In the last 2 years, weirdly, and that is always kind of effective.
You saw it.
It's like an eye wink almost. Like we know we're doing what.
But it uses all the same music cues.
Yes, it's great.
It's really
but
clever.
It's letting you know by showing you the movie that we know we are taking from this film.
Totally.
Don't murder us for it.
Yeah, it's giving credit where it's due.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I should also thank my mom and my brothers for. He'll be fine. Just watch the movie. You know, and
Yeah.
Mine
I
was
got
more
to see
sneaking
those
down
things.
at 1 a.m. on HBO.
Oh yeah,
watching
no, mine was just I walk into the living room, my brothers are watching it, probably stoned, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna just sit here and watch it. And they're like,
whatever. It's Jeff.
mom's at work.
Can't do him any harm.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, no, we'll make sure he doesn't emulate these things, you know. So it's like, yeah, it's
Movies don't create psychos, Jeff. Movies make psychos more creative.
like, it is true.
I heard that somewhere recently.
It did. It does. It is.
Yes. I'm much more creative now. Having seen this movie, Jeff is going to get gutted like a fish. So eventually, did I say that?
How do I know? How do you guys know I'm not the super
use
psycho?
your inside psycho voice. Chuck.
We're all the murderers.
Yes, we're murdering this podcast. That's
Yeah,
for
we
sure.
are. It's dead.
So anyway, they end up killing Casey. I think her name's Casey.
Casey.
Casey's boyfriend.
Steve.
Steve, give her. Oh yeah, we need moment of silence.
We need a moment of silence for Lieutenant
Why does
Steve.
it always gotta be Steve?
That Trication reference for any new listeners out there. Go back and don't listen to those.
I thought they were good.
Yeah, they were. I was joking. But their whole idea is to ask her questions about horror films, and if she gets one wrong, Steve dies, and then if she gets one wrong, she dies. And her question is, am I at the front door or the back door? She says she doesn't want to play, and they're like, all right, fuck you, and throw a chair through the back door.
Well, the one that gets Steve killed is the
Who's the killer from Friday the 13th?
Friday the 13th.
And she says Jason, which she's technically correct, but also very technically wrong.
And she's
Right.
seen that movie 20 goddamn times.
Yes.
That movie.
Right.
That is, you know what's funny about that is I joined the Friday the 13th series late, like probably 4 or 6 was the first one I ever saw. I didn't know his mother was the killer in the first one for many years until I went back and was able to rent those movies. Cause again, I was sneaking watching them when I shouldn't be. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't even know.
Yeah, if you didn't start watching those until 3, you don't know.
Right. Yeah. You don't know.
Yeah. Because even in some of like the flashback scenes, they integrate in some of her kills for Jason.
It's also kind of poking a little bit of fun at the fact that those movies can all kind of very easily be conflated, right?
Yeah.
And you know, they're all the same movie pretty much every time, even the one where it's his mom.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So she gets the question wrong. They throw the chair through the door. There's a really great, I think, scene where she's been stabbed, and her parents come home, and this is like every nightmare I had as a child where someone would be stealing me or hurting me. Like my recurring dreams as a kid, and I try to yell and scream and nothing would come out. This is what Casey is going through here, right?
Yeah.
Trying to scream for her mother.
Yeah.
But she ends up getting gutted and hung from a tree, and that is
With her insides on the outside.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember. I think this is probably one of the last times a movie really scared me in the theater.
Yeah.
I want to say maybe the end of The Ring was also really effective for me, but it's one of the two, and The Ring came later.
That's not a jump scare, right? Like it's legit.
Yeah.
Oh, legit, I am terrified. The Ring was it for me.
Yeah.
Although I will say that atmospherically, that last Halloween movie, watching it outside with the wind blowing through the...
Conditions were perfect.
Yes. Totally.
It's business
Totally.
time.
Oh, Steve.
So anyway, but yeah, no, but it is, I remember, again, I don't remember if I saw this in the theater. I think I didn't. I think I rented it or brought home a screener or something at the video store. And I remember thinking, it's like, this is a good first scene. It's like, it's it's like a cold open that isn't a cold open because you still get the title card first. But it's like you said, it's, it's like, oh, I guess Drew Barrymore's not in this movie anymore.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know any of these people except for Courtney Cox. She danced with Bruce Springsteen.
Yes, she did.
Yeah. When did Friends air? Was she was big on Friends at this point?
Right
wasn't
at
she?
it had already started.
Like season 1 or 2 was like 95.
It just started.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, she was already in Masters of the Universe, so she had
was
it made.
A huge star.
She had it made.
So then we cut to the actual main character of this film, Sidney Prescott, and she's at home playing on her computer, and one of 50,000 times her boyfriend runs through the window.
Oh my God.
He is accompanied by a music sting.
Yes, and whoosh sound.
Yes, he is.
Every time he enters a scene in this movie.
Yeah.
Billy Loomis.
Billy Loomis, appropriately named, right?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Not a mistake.
Definitely not. And he is immediately talking about movies, how the relationship started out R, and then it went to PG because of something we don't exactly know about yet.
Right.
And they have the clever little way of showing how Sydney can effectively block her door from being opened because her dad tries to get in, but she has the
There's a closet door
propped,
Yep.
which prevents the door from opening.
The doorknobs get entangled.
But Billy is sexually frustrated. He talks her into making out a little bit, and they play Don't Fear the Reaper here, which I think is a little bit of a clue for you.
Is it a cover?
Yes, because it's
really
slowed
low.
down. It's slowed down. I don't know who covered it, but it's definitely slower.
Oh, is this
than
also the
original.
start of the moody cover songs for trailers and movies?
Yeah.
I don't know, man, because
The Craft also was around this time.
Oh, yeah.
I think the way they used Hush for I Know What You Did Last Summer was fucking brilliant, but I did not like that movie.
Oh, a movie. Ooh.
Like, they sold that movie really well, and I did not like it.
And
yeah, they did. And yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And not to go down this tangent too
Again?
much more, but I would say that Scream is responsible for begetting. I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Weren't they both Kevin Williamson?
Right.
Okay.
Right. But stupid audiences are responsible for everything that came after.
Well,
I Don't
because
Know
of
What
what
You
they
Did
were.
Last Summer, because I Know What You Did Last Summer is not a good movie.
Fair enough.
No, and it made good money. I think it
It
made
did. It
decent
made really
money.
good
It had
money.
fans, and then everyone tried to copy
And
it.
then they-
money
and then
for a sequel,
I
and,
still
then,
know
and
it.
then a formula was born. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Jeff is like all angry stashed.
No, I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking of other horror movies I didn't watch until The Ring. I did watch Phantoms.
Well, Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo.
And The Faculty. Now, that was the other
Faculty's
side.
a good one.
The other side of that are the science fiction horror
Yeah.
movies like Disturbing Behavior and The Faculty. And
Well, let's get something straight on The Faculty. The Faculty was marketed like a Scream or I Don't Know, I Know
Right.
What You Did Last Summer ripoff,
I
but
wish
it,
you
but
would
it
get
was
that movie
not.
name wrong every time.
It was its own thing.
Right.
And it was very much a throwback to like the old 50s, 60s
and
sci-fi.
well, that's the tangent that Species and Mimic went down.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And those are also, yeah.
but they're all Weinstein produced.
yes.
Except Species was MGM.
Yeah.
The resurgence definitely stems from here, and then other genres kind of
Right.
popped off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
We're
anyway,
done with this tangent.
yeah, we'll be back.
We'll be back. We'll be back, tangent.
I'll be back. That's our famous last words, guys.
Oh, we're dead. What's worse is we doomed each other by saying we.
Yeah, you did. You're both dead. This is my podcast now.
Jeff, Chuck, it's all you know.
Yep.
So they have their moment. We get a little bit of the tease of a backstory with Sydney.
And a physical tease of
Oh yes, she flashes her chest to Bobby. Fuck,
Billy
I'm
Bobby.
not doing well right now with
No.
names.
Billy Bobby Brown.
Billy Bobby Brown. That would be weird in 1996.
Or Bobby Brown would
or
be
Bobby
weird.
Brown.
Shit, we're off the rails. Sorry,
Oh God, Chuck, bring us back. All right, next day is at school,
Yes.
and Rose McGowan man, she is. Yeah, I tip my hat to her as well. We're on radio, Jeff.
Oh,
I can't see your hand gestures.
yeah. Sorry. Right.
I hate to think that this was probably the time period in which she was getting, Me Too'd by Harvey Weinstein, but she was. But man, she is radiant in this movie.
Yeah.
And her performance is still, I think, holds up really well. Like she's like the supporting best friend without being the waspy bitch, right? That you generally get that archetype of.
We get a one waspy bitch really in this movie, and it's for like a half a minute.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I like her a lot in here. I like their friendship. You get the sense that they're not necessarily the most popular kids, but they're not the least popular kids, and they're really kind of not in a clique, right? They just have
they're
friends.
in a clique of two.
Yeah, and they just have friends and boyfriends, and
they seem very sisterly at times too.
Yeah.
Like they grew up together like you would in a town like this.
Yeah.
And she does, her character kind of levels with Sydney a lot.
She does. She's the only one who can really give her tough things to think about. Right,
without Sydney reacting poorly.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. And she does that in a really delicate way, albeit still in a very, 16, 17-year-old way, because while Dawson's Creek, Kevin Williamson, was very overly articulate in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I don't think that bleeds in as much into this movie.
Not with the two girls, but certainly with the three guys.
Yes, it becomes a little Sorkin-esque at times.
Yeah,
but not with them. I think that the two girls really ground this movie.
Yeah, they're very they feel of their time, and to a certain extent still modern. This is post whichever wave of feminism it is, to where I mean, I know. It's like, well, what wave are we in now? Like fourth, I think. But anyway, this is during the time in which it's like girls are being heard a little bit more than even a decade before or whatever. So they are not dumb bimbos that you are just waiting to find out if one of them is going to screw their boyfriend so they get killed.
Right.
They are smart. They are probably the smartest, most well-rounded characters of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Except for Dewey.
Well, I was thinking about Dewey because he certainly, well, I mean, of course, that's maybe a benefit of being the brother to.
Yeah, that whole relationship between all of them is great.
Yep. Right.
All the way over to Dewey.
Yeah.
One important note, Sydney's father is going out of town.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
He's staying at the Hilton Hotel. All that exposition at the beginning is given. Just important to know for later.
Yep.
But yeah. I do have a question about that later.
Sure.
Well, when we get there.
What is Rose McGowan's name in this movie? I can't remember. Tatum.
Yeah. Because that's one of those weird names where it's like, did you ever know a Tatum?
Tatum O'Neal is the only one I know.
It's like, I know. Right. So it stands out. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and she's actually the one who tells Sydney. Sydney is unaware that there were murders last night. She's like, what is this circus going on at our school? Tatum tells her.
The insides were on the outsides.
The insides were on the outsides, and then they get together. Go ahead, Jason.
And I like Sydney's reaction to that. You see it in a lot of horror films nowadays, and you see it a little bit in this later in the movie where teenagers don't really react appropriately to horrific things when they're told that they happened.
Right.
And that's not necessarily the case with Sydney and Tatum.
It would have been a bad misstep with her, given what happened to her the year before.
For sure.
Yeah.
But you would have like a third friend who would make light of the whole thing in a lot of movies like this that will come later.
Well, wait, he's coming up because Matthew Lillard is coming.
Matthew Lillard plays that part, but it makes
sense
story sense in the end, right?
Yes, and boys will do that too.
True.
It's the way that we deal with.
We hide our
we gotta be
emotions.
macho, especially in front of the ladies. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or we find humor in horrible things.
Right.
Yeah. So then we are introduced to Skeet, Stu, and
Skeet, Stu, and
Randy. Thank you,
Strandy.
Randy is the.
He's the fifth wheel in the clique.
Fifth wheel. He's the person you'd expect to be a suspect because he's a little off balance. He knows a lot about horror. Like he's kind of impressionable.
He's a big dork.
He's a bit dorky.
I said a big dork.
Yeah, and I said he is a bit dorky.
He's the guy in the 80s who would get questioned because he watched horror films and listened to heavy metal. But in the 90s, he's being reappropriated correctly as the movie geek.
The guy who would know how these situations go.
Right.
They invent that with him, right?
In a way, yeah.
And he's a little, and he is a little bit of a, he's a little lovesick too. In a little bit of a way, you can see him as the 90s version of Shelley from Friday the 13th 3.
Yeah.
Where he's just kind of, he's the misfit of the group.
Is he a dead fuck?
No,
that's Friday the 13th 4. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, Shelley's the practical joker.
Oh yeah.
But he's just he's an outsider. That's how he deals with it.
Yep.
Whereas in this, he's the outsider who deals with it by being lost in the movies and stuff like that, and works at a video store that he's been fired from twice.
Yes.
He just keeps showing up.
And he's proud of it. Yeah.
And you have Billy Loomis in this scene while everyone's talking. He's just kind of calculating in the back a little bit.
He's also playing the part of the sensitive boyfriend a little bit here.
He's a little bit of he's a little too cool and maybe too good looking for this group, if that makes sense.
You can't watch this movie though, and this is why I think this scene plays so well, without thinking it's one of those three guys.
Yeah. Like
immediately.
Yeah.
You think it's one of those three guys.
And Matthew Lillard's easy to finger because he is a maniac.
Oh my God.
But I think that's like, he's so over the top that I settled on Billy Loomis
because the other one is so far under the radar.
Yes, I settled on Billy Loomis the first time. And this movie tricks you like over and over again with Billy Loomis.
It does. It is telling you in so many different ways that Billy Loomis is a killer.
Yes.
Yep. And then it's telling you why he's not.
Yes, it's great. It's perfectly done, I think.
That makes for good. That makes for an engaging watch for sure.
Yep,
for sure.
Right, you get turned around a lot of. You're a little confused a lot of times. Like early on, I've seen this movie too many times to be confused anymore.
Well, I admit I haven't seen this movie in probably 20 years. But a lot of it was still like, oh yeah, I remember the scene, or it's like the whole thing in the whole beginning. Of course, you see that so many times in history of horror type stuff. You see the the scene at the video store between Matthew Lillard and Jamie Kennedy. That is a very memorable scene because it's like it's all laying out there for you. Like this is the rules this movie is playing by, and this is the rules the characters are following.
Yes.
Not the rules that are stated later, which I still say are wrong, but that's okay. It's okay.
Well, we can talk about your rules and how they're wrong later. We should do that.
We can't. Well, I don't want to come across sounding like a jerk.
You are a jerk.
I am a jerk. Yes.
I think that the rules are not rules because they're hard and fast. The rules are the rules because they're common tropes.
Yes.
Fair.
Yes.
Although all the good horror movies don't use those.
Fair enough.
Okay. Anyway, beside the point, because this movie doesn't use them either.
No. Well, this movie also, I think, it intentionally subverts them. Yes.
Fair enough. It's like Rian Johnson made this movie. Subverting expectations.
Yes, it is.
So, okay. So,
Sid goes home.
yes.
Sid goes home, and Tatum is going to, since her father is out of town, Tatum's going to pick up some movies and go get Sydney from her house. She calls her and tells her this, of course, and then immediately the phone rings, and sorry, folks.
Jason got thirsty.
I lost my
Jason got thirsty there.
I might need
So,
help with this.
so the underneath check. So she's gonna go get some movies, and Sydney goes home. Now, what ends up happening is that Sydney gets. Hang on a second. Sorry, everybody. Jason had to get up, and now he's crawling under the table, and that was hilarious.
And my microphone's broken.
So,
Mine's not.
well,
I'm back, baby.
thank you, Bender. Anyway, so like she gets called by Screamface,
Yes.
and then she is going to be, and so basically she is going to get attacked now, but she's able to essentially defend herself. Also, Skeet Ulrich comes over.
Yes.
Jeff, I might need you. Jason, keep talking.
So, things are happening in the movie Scream. You would never believe the chaos that has that has ensued since I got up to get a Diet Cola. It was just one hit after the other. To the point where I'm just stalling for time. But anywho, so this is. I'm sorry. All right.
So here's the deal. Sidney Prescott is at home. Tatum calls her. Tatum's going to pick her up, and right after she hangs up the phone, we need an editor. The phone rings, and it's the killer.
It's Screamface.
It's Screamface.
It's Screamface.
And he is talking to Sydney, and she thinks it's Randy. Everyone always thinks it's Randy, like the whole movie.
Yep.
It's always Randy.
Well, it's going to be the movie guy, right? Because he's asking questions about scary movies. Who else does that incessantly?
But also, though,
Randy.
Skeet Ulrich is constantly talking about movies and talking in movie terms.
It's true.
So,
but they're also trying to.
but
they're already telegraphing him, so they're telegraphing Randy as well.
Well, sure, but at the same time, it's very easy for the cool guy to not be pointed at.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to think that the guy who is dating the girl who's calling now, or that the guy's calling now, is going to be the guy who would do that.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Except we find out later that there are some people who might do that.
Yeah, indeed. So, all right. So this scene I do have questions about.
Okay.
All right. So what happens is it's a kind of a repeat of the Drew Barrymore situation from the first scene, but now Sid is the target. And she thinks that the killer tells her that he is outside on the porch.
Yes.
She's like, I'll call your bluff. She walks out onto the porch. I like this scene. She's kind of like, all right, Sydney's got some...
She's tough.
She's
strong.
tough. She's got some gumption. Yeah. He's not out there. She's like, I knew it. You're full of shit. And then she goes inside and Ghostface comes out of the closet and attacks her.
Yeah.
Screamface. Now, what do you think was the intention of Billy and what's the maniac's name?
Stu
in this scene? What do you think they wanted to happen?
They didn't want Sid to die. They were not going to kill her.
I mean, he was like up there about to plunge into her chest.
I think that's just
Is that
for
just movie license?
I think that's just for movie. I don't think
Okay.
they wanted to kill her because I think they knew that Billy would be the prime suspect. So they wanted to clear him right away. I think they were
But it
smart
almost
enough-
doesn't work.
Right, it almost doesn't work. I mean, Billy is smart, but I don't know if he's a genius, right? So their plan was to get Billy caught and then clear his name early. That is what I believe. Do you buy that?
I don't know. I this scene sticks out like a sore thumb for me. It's one of those things that the scenes that just don't make sense after the fact.
I think it's more for the movie,
I do too.
and I do kind of have a problem with that.
It's just one of the little things that bothers me about it. That prevents me from calling it perfection. That's all.
Right. Maybe
Yeah,
they should have had killed another character somewhere else and have Billy have an alibi at the time may have been a better way to do it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I do potentially think it was set up to ingratiate Billy more to her, right?
Right.
Like maybe, and I think maybe this is what you were driving at, Jeff, with the it almost didn't work, because maybe the intention wasn't for him to get arrested,
Was to save her?
but it was to save her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then maybe she would fall into his arms and they would have sex finally. Because really, ultimately, Billy's number one priority is having sex with Sydney.
He needs to empty them balls.
The only reason I think that's wrong, and I'm not trying to be contentious, is if they were really trying to do that, the other one should have been there.
Well,
It would tip us off that there were two killers, which would be a problem for the movie.
but maybe he was there.
He wasn't, because Stu has
Was
an alibi.
Was
for
he
that
with
night.
what's her name all
I think
night?
so.
He was with Tatum. Yeah.
Well, no,
she
that was for the first night.
I think he has an alibi for this one too. I'd have to recheck. I'm not sure.
Anyway, just throwing it out there. It's like one of
Well,
those. It always just kind of like.
what
it's
would
like,
it
whoa,
matter
is
if there
he-
were two killers
Because
at that
Billy,
point?
if he
Because
was
it would be for us to see. Oh, well, the killer was there, and then now Billy saved the day.
Oh
Right.
yeah, it's not Billy, but I think you're supposed to remain suspicious of him the entire movie anyway.
I just wonder what was going to happen if Sydney didn't kick Screamface in the balls right then.
Right.
Right. Because what happens next if that doesn't happen?
It would have ruined the movie because they're planning this for
So that's just like meh.
yeah.
I just don't like it. I just don't like it.
We'll let
Meh.
the cat out of the bag that Sydney's mother had died almost a year prior. Sydney had fingered Cotton Weary as the killer, who was someone that was supposedly sleeping with her mother.
Yeah.
I think actually a lot of people know he was sleeping with her mother. He admitted to that and was seen leaving her death scene with a bloody jacket.
Right.
And it's starting to come into some focus throughout the course of the movie that Sydney's mom was promiscuous.
Yes. Yes, it's something that Tatum brought up to a little later in the movie by saying, maybe your mom was just unhappy and she did these things. And she says, well, it was, this whole thing was created by Gail Weathers, who's the reporter who wrote the book. And
She's the one that's
Cotton Weary-
putting all these things out there about my mother that aren't true. Right?
And
But
Tatum's like,
she
no,
does
this has gone on for much longer than that.
Right. To which Sydney even later says, maybe I have to stop lying to myself about
right.
Yes.
my mother.
Yes.
And that's one of the interesting things that does start to kind of pay off a little bit in the sequels, right?
Yeah.
Like they're smart enough to kind of to get into that, and then even to some degree, what they do with that Cotton Weary character in the third movie is kind of funny, because now he's become like a star fucker almost, Yeah. But anywho, those are the sequels. It's kind of funny though that Liev Schreiber is really not in this movie. He's just in the
arrest scene,
the
basically.
the TV news stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he was a very big actor at the time, but I wonder if they always knew that they'd bring him back for a sequel.
Well, Kevin Williamson did say this was a trilogy.
Oh, he did. He wrote
from,
it like one
from the start.
Okay.
I don't know if he ever thought he would get to do all three, but he did say it was a
Interesting.
trilogy to start.
Cool. Okay. This is a little thing I was always kind of curious about.
Yeah. So the next scene is Billy's been arrested. Sydney is taken to the police station as well, where they're kind of questioning her. Billy is also getting questioned by the cops, and Gail Weathers shows up as Sid is leaving, and it leads to one of my favorite things ever with Tatum. Gail starts to ask her questions, and Sydney punches her for saying she's going to send her a book, right?
Yes, because so Gail has kind of made some hay with the whole murder trial, and she's kind of right. Somebody's going to write a book about what happened. Now, what most people don't realize is that when you write a book about that, of course, there are the people on the other side of the story,
Right.
that are going to be affected by it, but still somebody writes a book. And so what ends up happening is she's like, and Sydney is rightfully, upset about this. And she's like, hey, you wrote a bunch of lies about my mom in the book. And she, at one point she says something about like, how's the book going or whatever. And she's like, oh, it's going to be great. It's like, oh, I'll be sure to read it. I'll send you one.
Yep. And then she punches
And
her.
then she punches her in the face.
Yeah, and then they go back to They go back to Tatum's house because Sydney's staying there, and Tatum's. She looks like a 12-year-old girl in the scene. It's kind of funny how she plays her. She plays her very young, and she's
she's got like pajamas on and like a stuffed animal.
Yeah, but
I really like it because again, it kind of plays on the fact that these are still immature teenagers, right? Yeah.
It's a sleepover.
Yeah, and she's like, the way she treats the whole situation, she's like, oh, I'll send you a copy. Bam! Bitch went down. Like, oh, I'll send you a copy. Bam! Sid, super bitch. Like, it's very juvenile.
Kid. It's very kiddie, which is funny because these are the only times that you ever see these characters as kids, which is kind of interesting because it's like, if you really kind of think about like Nightmare on Elm Street, it's the idea of playing with when you are most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so like early, like in the first scene that we see Neve Campbell, what she's wearing is a nightgown that children wear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, it's not at all what you would expect a normal, even somebody into their late teens or into their 20s.
Like a high school senior.
It's not like
Didn't he
shorts and t-shirt or something?
Didn't he do something similar with Nancy? Didn't she have like a nightgown, basically, like a lacy nightgown?
But it was
modest, very modest. But you know what I mean, like almost like the Little House on the Prairie nightgown. Yeah,
and then for Rose McGowan, she's wearing like these flannel pajamas that for all we know, have like. It portrays, I don't know, like fucking cartoon characters on them.
Innocence a little bit, right? It portrays innocence. Even Dewey, who's the deputy of this town, is played almost very childlike in this scene.
Because, some of that is, the way I look at it, is some of it is the way small town stunt people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because forever and ever and ever more, the kids will remain the kids of that town. It's just a new batch of kids will come along.
And he's somehow been cast as like the Barney Fife of this small
he's the
town.
little brother of the small town.
Yeah.
Or the brother of the small town that's just barely out of high school or whatever, you know, and it's like forever and ever more he's going to be treated like that.
Yes,
even if he becomes like the sheriff of the town.
Even when they're leaving the police station, like Tatum is not treating him with any respect, and he's like, "Oh, what did Mom tell you?" And then they're like punching each other like kids would on
right
the way
in
out.
front of his commanding officer.
Yes, and he says something like, "Yeah, you're hitting me in front of my superior," and she's like, "Everyone's your superior."
There are a lot of great trailing one-liners in this movie.
Yeah,
that's
as
one of
people
them.
are walking away. Absolutely.
It's very realistic in that sense, and those are the things that I kind of really like about this movie is that. You feel like this town has existed for years and years and years and years before this movie. That's hard to do it's hard to do in really good movies.
Yeah.
To make it feel like that something existed before the movie started.
You learn about the characters organically, but you can tell that there's history there.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So what happens while they're at the house is the killer calls. While Billy Preston.
Get back.
He's playing a Wurlitzer somewhere. Billy Loomis. Billy Preston shows up at the end of this movie and he kills Scream Face.
Puts them all back to where they were.
Yeah. Sergeant Pepper's joke.
Oh my God.
Fuck up my microphone again.
All of a sudden, Drew Barrymore appears on the corner of the street. It's like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. They all blip back into existence. 5 years younger, 5 years older or something. Anyway, the killer calls. And this is what essentially clears Billy, right? He's in jail.
Looks like you figured the wrong guy again, Sydney.
Yes. Yeah. And Tatum's mom is knocking on Dewey's door. Dewey walks off.
He walks in with a gun in his underwear.
Yep.
I love the way he answers the phone.
Yes, he has to pretend he's older or pretend he's more mature. He's like, hello.
All cool.
Yeah. We have to talk about Deputy Dewey and David Arquette's performance in this movie.
Yes, it's perfect. It's perfect.
It truly is. It perfectly skirts the line between taking the material seriously, but also recognizing that there is room to have some fun. You know?
Yeah, because even when the sheriff is smoking, his cigarette is an ice cream cone.
Yeah, and the way he's like,
it's strawberry ice cream too.
And he's really going at it, but it is never sensual, which is way an ice cream cone usually kind of plays.
Right.
He's playing it
like a cigarette.
Like a cigarette. Yeah. It's wonderful. And the way he like leans into it, and the way he gets like these little moments of satisfaction from it. Like, yeah, like he's getting his nicotine hit. Yeah, it's so good.
Fantastic stuff.
Squinting his eyes at times, you know. Oh God, it's good.
He's just perfect in this movie. So yeah, that effectively clears Billy. He's let out of prison or jail, and we have the next morning at school.
Yeah.
Where now kids have learned that this five and dime costume is available everywhere.
Yeah.
Are running through the hallways, basically exploiting this situation.
It's a circus now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because one of their own has been accused, right?
Yep.
There's been multiple murders. The murders are, they're kind of wild because somebody's just in this crazy costume. Yeah.
Well, it's like it's playing out like a movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's creating like obviously tension, but then this release of tension. These kids are kind of running a little wild. Yeah.
And we have two pretty good scenes here. Sid goes into the bathroom, and she's being just roasted by the waspy bitch, right?
Right.
That's in this movie, about how she probably snapped and killed everyone because she's sexually repressed or something, blah, 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 whatever she says.
Well, she's really upset about her mom. So, she thought about killing herself, but then...
That was so 80s or something.
That was so 5 years ago or whatever.
Homicidal murder is much more relevant
right
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that actor, we looked her up because we thought that she looked familiar, but she's only been in maybe 2 other things. But I always really like that performance.
Yeah, she really goes for it.
Yeah, she does, and it's surprising she didn't do much. I wonder why, but she nails her scene. I mean, it's her one shot, and it stayed her one shot really. But she did a good job. Good job.
And then
she shot her shot. She hit it.
Yep.
While this is happening, we have the obligatory somebody else might be the killer scene. You're supposed because the principal has gotten.
Wait, before she leaves that bathroom.
Well, yeah, but I think they're happening concurrently. But we can talk about that before she leaves the bathroom. Her name is being called out,
like whispered, almost like it's coming through the vents.
They look at the vent, and maybe she thinks, "Oh, it's just I'm hearing shit," right? But we have the cool scene where the killer. Boots and jeans step down from a toilet.
It's got some Doc Martens.
Costume, and then the costume falls down.
Yeah.
Again, I think just set up to scare her. I don't really know.
I don't know. It's pretty hairy, and if they're only planning on scaring her, they're getting their giblets kicked a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do this
I think
anymore.
I'd be wearing a cup. Yeah.
Basically castrated in this movie. And just before that, she had talked to Billy Loomis, and Billy accused her of being frigid since her mother died, which was kind of another clue for you that, you're trying to ingratiate yourself back with Sid, but now you're talking about how you won't have sex with me because your mom died.
Your mom. It's like, basically a lot of his lines with Sydney are, look, babe, my balls are full. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, he's got blue balls from either being kicked in the balls or from her teasing him. Right. We also have Henry Winkler.
Well, she's not teasing him. He just wants it real bad.
Showing him her boobs as he's leaving is a little bit of a tease.
Well, sure. That's a playful tease. He's taking it as, it's like, oh, you fucking tease.
Well, yeah, it's the age-old thing, like boys think girls are flirting with them when they're not, or,
or just simply boys think that, hey, I want them. I want my thing in your thing. So why aren't you letting me put my thing in your thing?
Yeah, something about giblets or something.
Something about giblets.
But we have Henry Winkler, has the 2 kids. Yeah, Fonz, the Fonz principal. This scene I think is great.
I do too,
because he's got these massive fucking scissors that are very ominous looking.
Well, when he pulls them out of the I don't know, the pencil holder or whatever he's got him in, it makes the sound like when you unsheath the knife. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're going overboard with the sound effects here in this knife.
It's kind of like every horror film has that moment where they try to introduce a character that might be the killer, but you know it's not.
Yeah.
And this is so overdone that you know he's not the killer, but they're trying to play on that.
What's great about this, too, though, is that his public persona is...
I love the kids.
Yeah, it's like, remember, your principal loves you.
Yes.
He says this over the speakers as he's like, you know, if you need anything, just know that I love you. You know, and then now we see him in like disciplinarian mode. And
he says that he fucking hates their whole generation, basically. And he's snapping the scissors at him, and he's like, at
one point he runs the scissors along the kid's chest.
The kid says this isn't fair because he expels him, and he said, no, you're right, it isn't fair. Fair would be gutting you. And he's
and then putting you out on the flagpole so everyone can see how heartless you are.
Yeah, it's great. Fucking great.
Oh, man.
It's a total comedic scene. That is like, it's just there because it's like, yeah, these fucking kids. You know,
this scene has to be
it's
in
what
these
we're
horror
thinking.
Movies. It has to be there, and they make fun of it.
Right. And we're sitting there thinking, it's like, oh, those kids are jerks.
Yeah.
And then they get their comeuppance. It's like, yeah, you know. And it's funny, though, because it's a little bit cathartic.
Yes. So, because of the events at the school, those two kids, and maybe because Sid is chased out of the bathroom, school gets shut down. A 9 o'clock curfew is imposed.
Everybody cheers when they say the classes will be suspended for the foreseeable future. And then everybody boos when they say the curfew's been set.
Yes. But Stu sees this as an opportunity to have a party, right? His parents are out of town.
They got no school tomorrow.
Yeah, you bring the food. Right, and he's so hamming it up in this movie. I love him.
Yeah, you know,
much.
I thought so. I thought when Henry Winkler showed up in this movie, I knew obviously that was Henry Winkler. He's an 18-year-old. I mean, the fucking Fonz is so.
He's iconic.
Sorry, I'm like 90 seconds too late with this, but I wanted to check my sources and make sure because I don't think he'd been in anything for a long time, and he hadn't really been in anything. His face since 1982's Night Shift.
Really?
Yeah. And
what brought him back out?
I don't know, but it was an uncredited role, hilariously. But it kind of started a reconnaissance for him. A reconnaissance? A renaissance.
A reconnaissance.
A reconnaissance.
A reconnaissance.
A reconnaissance.
Because, you know, he got kind of hooked up with Happy Madison a little bit after that. He did The Water Boy, and he did Little Nicky.
But then he ended up in with Arrested Development.
So
right?
This was his Pulp
Was he in
Fiction.
Arrested Development? I think you're right. Yep, he was.
This was his Pulp Fiction.
Pretty much, yeah.
Bringing Travolta back from the dead, kind of.
Yep. I mean, I guess he'd been in a little bit of TV stuff, but not much. Yeah.
He puts it all. Everyone in this movie puts it all out there.
Yeah,
I feel like, and that you can tell that everyone was having a good time.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah, it's there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know, but it's from what I understand, it's like I have a feeling that Wes Craven was good at having sets like that where it's fun. You know, you might have to do something scary or something tough, but everybody's having a good time doing it.
Right.
I do know that the character was also not in the original script. He was a punch-up character to add another kill.
That's a good idea because there's not many kills in this movie.
So we have,
but also speaking of Wes Craven, he appears.
Yes, he does. And you had actually said at the beginning of this movie, do you think they purposefully or accidentally used a school that looked like?
No, at least looked like Nightmare on Elm Street.
And I'm like, well,
Elmwood.
I mean, it's purposeful because Freddy is in the building.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
But we have Henry Winkler is in his office perpetually scaring himself in the mirrors.
they do the other like red herring thing where they put the mask up. He's looking at himself in the mirror with the mask, and he pulls the mask down, and it's the Fonz, and
it's great.
Well, but that came from earlier too, when Sydney goes to go to the door.
Oh yeah.
And Dewey is holding the for whatever reason, holding the mask towards the door while like calling back or looking back
Yeah.
at the other cops that have arrived.
Yeah. with the gun in his hand.
With the gun in his hand.
And then he screams.
Yep.
So good. So Winkler hears knocks at the door, and there's nobody there. And like Jeff said, this killer's really good at ding dong ditch.
Oh yeah, because there are times where he's instantly answering the door and nothing there.
Yeah. There's also some other weird thing you noticed here, but I didn't understand it. But anyway, Henry Winkler, after a few knocks, goes and looks out in the hallway. You said like the sides of the screen?
Yeah. So I think it's the lenses being used because as it pans, it does a weird like kind of wavy effect on the edges.
Okay.
And I think I don't know if they used maybe a lens that wasn't quite like a fisheye lens, but something that created depth. But when it moved, because we watched it in widescreen because that's, we're not heathens. And but like it's almost like the opposite of what pan and scan does, where pan and scan has that weird like adjust to follow something. This had something that was happening on the periphery as it was swinging, following him, and it was like almost like pulsating.
Oh, weird.
And it had to have been the lens, and I'm guessing it had something to do with depth or field of depth or whatever. I didn't see it anyplace else.
Interesting.
So it might have been, and it could have been, they used the lens that once they processed the film, it would have been out of its normal framing maybe, or it might have been outside of its normal presentation. It like was wider than it was supposed to be. So it had to change the aspect ratio or something. I don't know, but it was weird. And I only noticed it in that one shot as it was panning, following him in the office.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So after it pans and follows him in the office, he looks out in the hallway, and who's there?
Freddy.
Janitor
Freddy.
Janitor Freddy, played by
Wes Craven.
Wes Craven. With straggly long hair.
Yeah, the wig kills me.
A nice little joke for you.
Yeah.
Winkler goes back into his office and scares himself again.
In the mirror, yeah.
Yep. And Scream Face is behind the door.
See, it's catching on.
It is.
I do it for
Taking
you.
the nation.
Thank
I
you.
do it for you. And he gets murdered.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which call back to that later is really funny too.
Yes,
yeah, well,
it is.
that's the other reason why they did it, is because they needed a reason
To get all the other
kids out of that party.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fair enough, because a lot of those kids were not going anywhere.
Right.
We've all been at those types of parties or hosted those types of parties, like get the fuck out.
That end up with like 13 boys and one girl. And the girl
Right, and-
pieces out.
The girl's like, I'm out. And the boys are like, all right, well, I'm just going to like stay here until 4 a.m. It's like, get the fuck out.
So yeah, the party is pretty much the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Not pretty much. It is the rest of the movie. And it's a long kind of...
It's
like,
kind of
almost
like...
Can't Hardly Wait-ish.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the old kind of trope where it's like for prom night or something. It's like it's all leading to the school dance at the end of the movie or whatever. And so in this way, it is sort of the same thing.
Yeah, if they watch Prom Night, they'd save time.
That's right. That's right. If you watch Prom Night, you know what to look for as cops. I don't know if that's true.
I don't either.
I've seen those movies.
Me
I've seen
too.
a lot of the movies that are talked about. But Prom Night is not exactly among the top tier.
But it was the boyfriend in Prom Night, though, right? So that's
Yes.
why he's using Prom Night, because that's the scene in the video store where he's like, it's obviously Billy. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if only
Yeah,
they'd
because
listened
Stu
to
and
him.
Billy are renting movies for the party, I think.
Yeah.
Randy ends up screaming real loud. And
Well, yeah, because because Billy is hanging out in the horror section talking to a couple of ladies,
yeah,
and he's like,
in
"Oh,
poor
that's
taste if you're
it's
the-
in poor taste."
prime suspect in a murder. And they kind of do that really well again. Like when Billy comes up and grabs him and Stu is hanging over his shoulders. It's like a clear indication of...
These guys are up to no good.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you know, Billy's been cleared, so you can't possibly think it's him at this point, right?
Well, I can.
Randy does.
You can.
Randy
Randy
does.
does. Randy still suspects him.
I worked at a video store, therefore I know.
I'm wondering why he didn't say, well, that's easy. There's two killers.
Right.
That's how he got cleared. Like, that would have been,
Oh, yeah, because I'm sure that's been used in something he could have referenced.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
So the party. Dewey's been taxed with keeping an eye on Sidney Prescott, so he's there.
He's just kind of floating around.
Gail Weathers, he actually drops the girls off at the party.
But then he floats around.
Yeah. Gail Weathers shows up because she hears something going on, and she even asks Dewey. He's like, "Oh, there's just kids having fun," and she's like, "Well, what are you doing here?
Just keeping an eye on things.
Just keeping an eye on things, being real Dewey-like." So they're having this party, and Tatum is asked by Stu to go get beer from the garage. And her and her headlights proceed to go.
Oh, her turkey's done.
Both of them.
I like that one. I like
Both of them. Right.
That had to be like a conscious choice by her.
Not by her.
Not by her. Absolutely not.
By whomever. Like, that was.
I think that came from up top.
Uh-huh. Most definitely.
Okay. Yeah, that's creepy and terrible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I feel bad mentioning
you get a
I mean, they used that
tease.
shot in the trailers, man.
Yeah,
that shot was all over the internet in 1996. It was like probably the most paused scene of any movie in 1996 when
That
she
was
opens
not
the garage
nude.
door.
That was not nude. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean,
But if you paused all the right moves at the right place, you could see Tom Cruise's penis,
Yep.
as was mentioned by Tatum earlier in the movie.
Thank you, Mr. Skin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were, I think you were talking while they mentioned that.
That might have been, but well, whatever it was, whatever happened before or after that moment, it's a little fuzzy. But it's like she opens the door and it's like it's got to be 20 degrees in that place. Like it reminds me of Kingpin when Vanessa Angel goes to the freezer to try to make Randy Quaid fuck up in bowling, and she comes back with the nipples, and then he goes and he comes back with bigger nipples.
That's a fairly good connection.
It is. That's really funny.
Get it? Fairly literal.
Anyway, but no, it's like 1996 was the year of hard nips apparently in movies.
The year of the nipple.
But anyway, no, whoever made that decision, whether it was Rose McGowan, whether it came from Wes Craven, or it came from up top, or it came from another actor, it's memorable.
Yeah, it's 100%
Sure
memorable.
Because you just know what they look like without seeing them. It's ridiculous.
Okay, let's move past this.
It's ridiculous.
She goes and grabs beer, realizes the door is locked, goes to open the garage. The garage gets halfway open, and then
Well,
shuts.
there was weirdness with the garage door because she was looking for the light switch.
She opened the garage to turn the light on. Is
Yes.
why she did it. Because there was no light switch, or the light switch wasn't working or something.
Okay.
So it's the open the garage for light trick. But she opens it to leave, and then it gets closed.
Correct.
And Randy is in there, right? Because again, she thinks it's Randy. She's like, "Oh, do you want me to play the helpless victim?" And I love this scene, like the body acting, whoever does this. Mm-hmm. And I've never looked if Matthew Lillard or Skeet Ulrich actually play the killer or not.
I don't know.
I should probably look
That's
that up.
a good question, because I don't think Skeet Ulrich is very tall.
He's not tall
No.
enough. I feel like Lillard probably played it in every scene,
maybe,
or somebody else,
or somebody else, or they
It was
know.
probably a stunt actor.
Oh,
probably Kane Hodder.
It was probably Kane Hodder's not that tall either.
I know.
It's probably Dave Prowse. Whoever it is, it's like, hey, we're gonna kick you in the nuts a lot, and he's like, "What? Action!
Boing.
So yeah, there's some really good, like the head shake, the head nod. It's all very ominous,
It is,
but also funny. It's
Yes.
funny ominous.
Yes, they
not
walk
as
that-
funny as how the scene ends.
Right. But they walk that line really well in this
Yes.
movie of his comedy versus horror.
Right.
In teen high school movies.
I would
It was a
almost.
stunt performer, Dane Farwell.
That's close to Kane Hodder.
The voice was Roger L. Jackson.
Yes, he continued to do the voice. Is he still alive?
I have no idea.
I wonder if he'll do the next Scream.
He is
Anyway.
63 years old, yes.
Okay.
Did he do voice work in general?
Yes, he's a voice actor.
I thought so. That sounded familiar. Anyway, so he, like, I would almost call this movie a black comedy.
That's fair.
I think that's fair. Yep.
Because it certainly is. It is staged that way in a lot of scenes, and a lot of the scenes, except for the first, that is meant to be scary. The first scene is scary,
right.
but everything after that is dark humor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
So yeah, Tatum is met by the killer at the door. She decides to go through the garage cat door.
Well, she tosses some beers. One hits him in the nuts.
Oh yeah, more nut shots.
One hits him in the face. But so she's like, yeah, I got to get out of here. So she goes through the cat door, which we saw earlier, right before. But she gets stuck or isn't able to get all the way through very quickly.
While she's going through, the killer
opens the door and it smashes her head.
Yep.
Your head is smashed.
That's a strong fucking garage door motor.
Yeah.
It sure is. Well, it showed that it was struggling.
Yeah.
And then Screamface, like, is kind of looking at his work, and then he just kind of like sidesteps out of the scene.
It's very vaudevillian.
Yes.
It's kinda
like there's there's three ways you could do it. You could just have him like just admire his work like Michael Myers
and cut.
Or you can have him like kind of like and then like they did, where it almost seems like he's like but then
I think
the other way is to actually have him dance vaudeville style to
off stage.
Or the way we're used to seeing, which is literally just showing her face and then cutting to the next scene.
Right, exactly.
You don't
Not
often
going
get to
back
see-
to him.
Right.
You don't
And
often get to see the killer after a kill.
Right,
like
you don't normally see the killer sidestep his way out of a scene.
I think it honestly is kind of played for a laugh, though.
I think so.
I really do. I think it's
sure as hell
intentionally
laughed.
played for a laugh because it is sort of like, whoa, that worked, you know?
Well, it didn't count on
Exit
that.
scene.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the killer snagglepuss. Exit stage left.
I killed her even.
Yeah, so but we don't know where the garage door is.
No, the garage is like in a
it's
black
like a
hole
magical
somewhere.
place.
Yeah.
There is a garage at this house, but the door, everything to it is in some magical place and
Yes.
outside
Nobody
of time
else
and space.
apparently goes in or by the garage
No.
the rest of the movie, which is okay. It's okay.
Well,
It's okay.
one person does at one point.
They fly by it.
Yes.
Yeah. So now, for some reason, half of the party goers leave at this point. I
Right,
don't know
because
why.
well, no,
Well, it's curfew.
Oh yeah, they leave
some
before
people
curfew.
leave before curfew. The rest of them leave later when Jamie Kennedy gets the call about the principal being found dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that the two ways that they shoot that moment is really funny. But he tells everybody, "Oh man, Principal Hembley was
We
killed."
do have to. I know they leave later, but we do have to discuss two things before that.
Okay.
Gail Weathers came into the party while everyone was still alive. She plants a camera by the TV.
That might have been what that videotape of smoke was. The camera.
What?
No, they showed a whole camera.
No, they showed the camera. That would be funny, though, if it was like hidden in the VHS tape of smoke.
Well, do you know anybody else who ever watched that movie?
I don't.
They're all video cameras.
Is Craven like a fan of smoke? Maybe or
Well,
something?
Jeff
No,
nailed
it's
it. It was
Miramax.
released by Miramax. There was just a bunch of Miramax
Clerks
videotapes because
and
Clerks
Smoke.
was
Clerks
there,
was a
yeah.
poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Gail Weathers had put the camera there, which we find out is on a 30-second delay in the van, which plays.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a good thought. That's a good way to do this.
Yes, it's great. So we do have Billy Loomis shows up right after Tatum gets killed. and Sydney decides, yeah, I will go upstairs with you into his parents' room because we need to talk and we need to make a porno, which is what eventually happens. Her words, not mine. Because they constantly have their relationship pegged by MPRA rating or
MPAA ratings. Yeah, it's like, man, those are all broken. So I don't even know what PG-13, according to Titanic, means I get to see all of Kate Winslet. I don't know what these ratings mean.
Right, it's tastefully done, Jeff. You're allowed to see it in movies, apparently.
That's the only movie I've ever seen that's PG-13. I mean, like, okay, yes, Airplane has straight-on boobs at PG. That's fine.
Well, there's lots of 70s. Like, Wonder Woman had lots of nudity in its PG.
Yes, it did. But no, since
not Wonder Woman.
Wonder Women. That's a very key distinction there.
You're not going to see Linda Carter's
or gal.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, guys.
Next.
The Jason, what are you up to? What's going on?
The rules. I'm just listening to you guys. It's good.
Go.
The rules.
The rules. What are the 3 rules to successfully survive a horror
You
film?
don't know the rules?
Perfect Jamie Kennedy.
Drunk Jamie Kennedy. What are the rules exactly? One is...
You can never have sex.
Never have sex. Number 2, you can't drink or do drugs.
It's sin factor. It's
the extension of number 1.
Yeah.
And then number 3, don't ever...
Under any circumstances.
Feed them after midnight.
Yes.
You knew I was going there. You wouldn't have laughed so fast if you knew I was going there. If you didn't know I was going there. No, it's don't ever say I'll be right back, because surely you will not be.
And then Matthew Lillard.
I'll be right back. I'm going to overact the fuck out of
Everybody
this.
oohs him. And I do like when Randy oohs him too, and he says, I'll meet you in the kitchen with a steak knife.
Yeah.
It'd have been great though if Matthew Lillard kind of sidestepped his way out.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal.
So yeah.
Yeah, so we have those rules. And then Randy gets the call. That Principal Himbley has been killed and hung.
Principal Harambe.
Killed and hung from the football goalposts. What? So all the other kids leave except for Randy.
Right, because everybody's like, oh, let's go see him before they drag him down.
And while they're leaving, Gail and
Dewey have gone on a little walk because he has heard that there's a car in the bush.
And he has that great walkaway line that Jason mentioned, there being several in this movie, where he's like, do you know what that constellation is? And she's like, no. And you think it's going to be a sweet teaching moment. He's like, I don't know either.
That's why I asked you.
But while they're walking down the road, all the other kids come tearing ass down the road.
They have to go see the principal gun on the fucking flagpole.
And Dewey,
or on the goalpost.
Dewey yells, slow down.
No, he's like, hey,
freeze.
Slows down.
He's
freeze.
Like,
and then he has to jump out of the way.
Yeah. And he rolls on top of Gail. And
she kisses him.
She kisses him.
He kisses her.
And she looks over to the left and says,
because he says, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm on duty.
Yes.
And then she just kind of and then looks over and
says,
hey, is that what you're looking for?
And he's like, my whole life.
They have a whole arc.
You can kind of tell, I think, this is where they fell in love, right? Making this movie before they got married.
Oh, I'm sure.
You can feel that in their performances almost, how much
they're very sweet to one another.
Yes.
And it's kind of nice, because she's a bitch. She's at least presented as a bitch.
Yeah.
But maybe just more opportunistic than anything.
Right, because she even says
well, as I said,
I might save a man. Do you know what that could do? And Jesus, Jesus has a look like, oh, this is really nice. And she goes, you know what that could do for my book sales? And slaps him. So she's definitely a little
She's
bit
opportunistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because at one point she's even like, have you ever heard of a what's the, I don't know, rag mag,
well, I think the one moment that this really stands out is when she says, well, it sounds like we have a serial killer on our hands. And Dewey says, well, I think we need a few more before we could put that label on things, something like that. And she says, well, we could only hope. And his look is kind of like, it's like, is she being serious or not?
But so no, she says, have you ever heard of a tabloid news reporter winning the Pulitzer? And it's like, she obviously wants to be something more than than tabloid. But at the same time, that's bringing home the bucks.
Mm-hmm. That's what she's doing. She's doing what a tabloid reporter would do. Yeah. But important to note as well that Dewey also found out that the calls that were placed to Sydney and Casey, which I don't know how Casey's calls, maybe they weren't cross-referenced that way. At least the calls that were made to Sydney were from Neil Prescott's phone, which is her father.
And that's his
been
car.
Missing like the whole movie.
Right. And here's where my question comes up. So at one point they say, because when she gets attacked, they're trying to call him. And they're like, she tells them which hotel that he's supposed to be staying at. To which it's like, well, he's not registered there. Why? He is registered there.
Yeah, it's
because he says that he's supposed to go there. So it's just another red herring. But is that something that one of the Scream Face thought of? And it's like, hey, we need to cancel this reservation. Then how would they know that that's...
Or it was a group reservation and it wasn't under particular people's names because it was a work thing. Possibly.
Fair enough.
Possibly.
I don't know why you'd even need to have it. I mean, he could very well be registered and he's never checked in.
Right.
That would be the right answer.
I don't know why you don't just do that. Yeah.
Right. It's because otherwise now it makes it oddly seem like he's killing people, but why is he killing people? There's no real good answer.
Maybe
for that.
They thought that if
it's not like Sydney is,
but there's definitely a thread that wants you to think that he could be the killer. So maybe him not checking into his hotel, which he premeditatively made a reservation for, doesn't check out enough for you to suspect him as being the killer. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a little thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing. But that was something that stuck out to me. It's like, hey, wait a minute.
Horror movies need convenience.
That's
a lot
fair.
of the times to be good. It's very rare that you watch a horror film that doesn't have some convenient plotting to make things work.
It's not necessarily that. Yeah, I agree, but
it would have been.
But
funny
there's smarter ways of doing.
Yes, they
things.
could have done that. They could have done that better.
It would have been funny if one of the revelations at the end, a question was asked. It's like, hey, what does it matter? We needed convenience,
right?
And just kind of hit that. It's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Right.
It's horror movie rules.
Well, they kind of touch on that a little bit with motive. It's
sure.
We don't need we don't need a motive. It's the millennium, and that's I never really kind of understood that even in 1999, but it is kind of funny to think that we're in this.
It's the brave new world,
right? Where motives have become irrelevant. Yeah,
right. I mean, like nobody is going to live to see the turn of a century that's currently around or will be born shortly after.
Right.
So it's like it was kind of this.
It plays in a little bit to the mysticism.
Well, and it plays in a little bit to the to a lot of people's disaffected feelings about things. It's like there are a lot of people who are like, I kind of hope doomsday does happen, in 2000 or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it may have been just part of that kind of.
We survived it though. We survived the 2K scare.
Yeah,
so did our
I mean, it's probably just Gen X apathy.
Yeah, true. All right.
Yes. So go ahead, Jason.
I'm fine.
Jason's fine.
I don't know what I was gonna say.
Jason wants to listen to us talk about this movie.
It's entertaining. You guys should hope other people are enjoying it as much as I am.
Why don't you crawl under the table again? Create more chaos.
Yeah.
So, Sydney and Billy have had sex. Randy's downstairs watching Halloween. And he's telling Jamie Lee Curtis that the killer is behind.
It's
her.
the scene
Yeah.
when she starts finding the bodies and Michael Myers comes up behind her and he's like, "Whoa, turn around right behind
And while this is occurring, the killer is actually behind him.
you." Right.
Scream face.
Scream Face is behind him about to kill him.
Yes.
And, oh, wait, nope. I need to back up just a little. Billy and Sydney had sex.
Screamface came in.
Scream Face came in because he's like, what do I have to do to prove to you? Because she'd asked him, like, what's the one call you made?
Right.
I think that'd be pretty clever if you used your one call to convince me that you weren't the killer. And he's like, what do I have to do? And basically he has to die to prove it to her, right? So Screamface comes in, stabs him a couple times, and he, air quotes, dies. And Sydney runs away.
Wait a minute. What is the thing that distracts
Sydney
Screamface?
Get Sydney yelling after she falls off the out of the house onto the boat tarp. She goes and breaks through the fence and starts running, yelling, "Help me!"
As he's coming up behind Randy.
Yes,
Got
and he
it.
hears her scream, and then he runs after her instead.
Yeah.
She has gone to the van, which is on 30-second tape delay, right?
Yes.
And she gets in the van, and they're watching, and they both it's another clever reuse of the behind you thing, because they're telling him, as he's telling Jamie Lee Curtis, the killer's behind you. Jason, you like this, right?
I do, yeah. What do you want?
I don't know. I didn't know if you want to talk about
What does he have to do to prove he's not the killer, Chuck?
Yeah, well, you said you really liked the use of Halloween in this,
I do.
so I didn't know if you wanted to expand on it.
You're telling it great.
All right. I'm sorry.
Jesus
My
Christ,
goodness,
guys.
Man, I don't know what I'm...
I don't
I didn't know if you wanted
get back
to say
under the
anything.
table.
Man. I do. I think it's really clever.
Okay, so, yes. The Jesus Kenny.
Jesus Kenny.
Kenneth Shuttleworth.
We're just going to name all of our past guests
Yes.
in these episodes.
Well, I mean, Jesus Shuttleworth, he got game. But his name was actually Kenny in this movie.
He got game?
Not He Got Game. Yeah, it is He Got Game. Or what's the movie with Jesus Shuttleworth where Ray Allen plays the basketball player?
Yeah, that's He Got Game. Was that his name?
Jesus Shuttleworth.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's why Ken always calls himself Jesus Shuttleworth.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, I thought we called him Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, we do call him that. We call him that.
Yeah, he never did cotton to that too well, did he?
No. He's a bit weary of that one.
I don't know why. I would take that.
Yeah, I got it. It's good.
Jesus Christ. Oh boy, this episode's a fucking disaster. Anyway,
It'll be the one that makes us famous for sure.
probably.
We'll never be able to recreate the madness of this episode.
I wish it was Young Guns 2 that was the one that made us famous.
Yeah. So Sidney Prescott had fallen out of the window. She goes to the van. Kenny is like, "Oh shit, kid." And then he turns around to go try to help the kid, and he realizes the door is open. He says, "Oh, they're on a 30-second delay," and then he gets a slit.
Not Jesus gets his throat slit. Yep.
Slope. I can't say it.
And then she crawls through to get to the back of the van where
Which is
she
kind
goes
of cool
out.
because it's his last words are like the back. Like
Yeah.
he's telling her how to escape the situation.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Hey, he's a good dude.
And she goes through that, as does
He liked his
the
ruffles.
Screamface.
He liked his ruffles, potato chips.
He did. This
He was a
movie
litter
liked
bug.
this product placement.
Yeah.
But then, so they both go through the back, even though Screamface didn't have to, which is fine. Whatever.
I don't think he
Convenience.
realized the door was there when he got in. Is my take on why he got in the van. He didn't think she could get out that way.
But he followed her out that way
He starts
too.
to try to catch her.
Right. So then she takes off and gets into Dewey's car. By the way, Dewey has been stabbed in the back.
Oh, yeah.
She just kind of runs away. So
Yeah.
this hasn't happened yet. Dewey comes back up the hill, tells Gail to get in the van and call the police station for backup. I don't know why he just didn't get in his car and do that, but it's convenience for the movie again. Gail gets in the car, realizes the phone doesn't work, decides to drive away. Kenny falls on the windshield. She drives.
But before she drives away, Randy shows up.
Randy
He's like, "Hey, help!" And then she
He's
punches
like, hey,
him.
what's happening?
Yeah, what's happening?
Beats the shit out of him with the phone.
And he's like, "Ow, ow, ow!"
That is
Poor
really good
Randy.
because he's still clueless as to what's going on at this point.
Right.
But what does Randy see that makes him know it's Stu?
He probably saw him took off the costume or something like that when. So we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But when she gets out of the car, sitting to go to the door, he probably sees Matthew Lillard take off the costume that he was using to get into the car.
Yeah,
when he was doing
potentially. Yeah.
that would be my guess.
She wrecks the van, and then they both come up to the house accusing one another.
Yes.
And Sydney's like, "Fuck you both."
It's the right answer.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
I always like
self-preservation,
I always
bitch.
like that in the movie. It's like, I have no way to figure this out. What's one of you? So I'm slamming the door.
But
Yeah.
you're right. Stewie had been stabbed in the back, walks out, falls presumably dead on the porch.
and Screamface takes the knife out of his back,
Yes. And then
which is
chases-
probably what fucks him up for the rest of his life.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably what. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what gave him that limp he has in the rest of the movies. Until he gets shot a bunch of times, I think in Scream 3 or 2. I can't remember which one he gets shot in.
Does it fix him?
No, he still lives.
Oh.
It fucked him up more.
Oh, okay. It'd be great if he fixed him.
I think it doesn't become kind of a joke. Doesn't he get like injured in every movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he
you
does.
think he's dead, but he's not.
Yes. 1,000%. And it's always like, I hold my breath to find out if he lives. Every time. It'll probably happen again in the new
Probably.
Scream. So she has gone into the house now. Gail is knocked out, presumed dead in the van. And Billy Loomis stumbles to the top of the stairs and basically falls down the stairs and is like, "It's okay. Give me the gun. We're going to handle this situation." He opens the door.
Randy comes busting through.
Yes. Well, he comes through. I think he comes through a back door, maybe.
No, he comes in through the front
He
door.
does come-
Matthew Lillard's gone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's Matthew that goes.
He's like,
around.
Stu's
Yeah.
gone crazy. Stu's gone mad.
Yes.
That's what he says.
Gone mad. Bam. He gets shot. Everybody gets shot in the right arm,
Yeah.
in the chest.
And
which
he
is
uses that Anthony
survivable.
Perkins line. We all go a little mad. Sometimes.
We all go a little
And
mad
he's-
sometimes.
Even gives credit to it.
And then he says Anthony Perkins psycho, which is kind of like,
Yeah.
I guess
Die.
the kids need to know that, you know.
Yeah.
We don't.
I knew that reference.
But he has kind of, I guess, that made that part of his character at this point. You know,
His movie references.
He's
are-
more of the movie guy, it turns out, than Randy.
right.
Yeah.
He's bought into
Well,
the movies
he's-
more than Randy does.
Exactly. Randy
Right.
knows the movies. This
But he
guy is
doesn't
trying
live
to
them.
live them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I said that's a major red flag.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh shit, Billy's the killer. We didn't know that, but who was Screamface that was outside?
Matthew Lillard.
Yep, Stu comes up behind her and gives one of my favorite performances ever.
Oh my god. Oh my god. So this for me was actually a pretty good twist when I first saw it. Did not see the two killer thing coming.
Me neither.
Thought it was Billy Loomis. Like, oh wow, okay, I buy it. They've been trying to tell you it's not him, but it is him. Cool. But then when the shoe drops on Stu, it's pretty good twist.
Yeah.
I don't know about the greatest performance ever though.
It's just fun.
I know
It's just fun.
it's something.
Yeah.
It is something. It is one of the hammiest performances
I love it.
ever put to celluloid.
I just think
if
it's perfect.
If celluloid was still around in
Yes.
the 90s.
I think it's just perfect for this film.
Well, I don't know about Celluloid, but
Celluloid.
Celluloid was.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks. It's actually pronounced celluloid.
The fuck is this?
You did the same thing to me a second ago. Oh God,
It's holier than thou.
We've devolved.
We
man.
have, we have.
We've really devolved here. Let's go kill somebody.
Celluloid.
Anyway, sorry, Chuck. That's gonna be you.
Killing somebody?
No, yeah, we're gonna get you.
You're going to be the two. Oh, I thought you were going to be the two survivors and plant the evidence on me.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to stab each other real quick.
I feel a little woozy.
You really call the cops?
My mom and dad are gonna be so baby.
Yeah, so, basically the whole thing comes out. It's like...
they kidnapped Neil Prescott.
Yes, and they were going to frame him because the way he... Skeet Ulrich is mad at Sydney's mom for being a slut because she was sleeping with
His dad.
Yep. Which
Caused-
caused his mom to leave.
Right.
And when
Abandon him.
And when a mom abandons, it really messes with him. You should know, Sydney.
Messed him up.
Yep. Which messed her up is what he's getting at.
Yep.
And so that's just his motive. It's pretty weak.
Yep.
But that's okay. It's okay. He's a kid. I'm okay with that. Matthew Lillard's motive?
Peer pressure.
Yeah, it's basically the millennium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's crazy.
Yeah.
He's fucking we know he's crazy. He just need a little nudge, right? To do all this stuff, I think.
Yeah, I buy it because his performance is crazy.
Throughout
the whole movie.
He had put the gun down.
Mm-hmm.
And the gun is gone. And Gail Weathers has it. But she hasn't taken the safety off. She gets kicked out of the house.
Literally.
She does.
Yes.
Drop kicked out of the house.
Yes.
It's like
He
I
picks
thought
her
it was
up,
weird.
drops
he balled her up
and
and then
punts her out of the
punts
house.
her out of the
Yeah.
house. She lands on Dewey, which probably doesn't feel good for
It's
Dewey.
cute. Even Billy says, "Oh, cute. You're gonna die
isn't that
together
cute?
here."
Yeah, isn't that great? But then
Sydney's disappeared.
Sydney and her dad have both disappeared. And then so they're looking around for her, and it's like she comes out of the closet kind of like Michael Myers,
Yeah.
dressed the Scream face, runs him through with a parasol.
Mhm.
Yeah. Otherwise known as an umbrella.
Right. Well, but isn't that what the outdoor
The
umbrellas
kids
are?
wouldn't know. I had.
Okay.
Are you sure it wasn't a bumbershoot?
Oh,
Damn.
well, I don't know.
It was an umbrella.
Does anybody carry a blunderbuss in this movie? Anyway,
Anybody wearing a cummerbum?
a cumberbatch?
It's pronounced cummerbund.
Oh, thanks.
Oh God!
Okay, so
This might be our last episode, everybody.
You witnessed
we
it.
can't do it any better.
So maybe we need to make more so you don't have to go backwards.
Yes.
Anyway, so that still leaves Matthew Lillard, and he's like, "Did you really call the cops?" Because she says, it's like, "Hey, I called the cops. They'll be here." So
That's when he was on the phone before the Billy.
You guys are super fucked. And which he's like, "Oh, my mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me."
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So he attacks her. They roll over the couch. She kicks him and hits him with the vase, and then she drops a TV on his face.
Yes, and electrocutes him.
Yeah.
And he also goes, "Ugh,"
Yeah. After he's dead.
After he's dead.
Awesome.
Do you think that he really needed to be electrocuted, or do you think because those TVs back then were heavy?
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, I mean, it smashed the skull, right?
I would assume he would have died right immediately, but they let him live a little bit longer.
Yeah, just to get a little bit more.
Yeah,
Just get a little bit more.
Yeah, it had to be satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
This guy killed people.
Really, it would have been satisfying if he exploded.
Yes.
But that's not,
That's not this movie.
that's not what this movie was interested in.
But then, so Randy is kind of like, hey, this is when the killer is kind of like going to sneak up and scream and kill you. And then Gail shoots him, and then he says it again. And then Sydney shoots him in the head and says, not in my movie.
Not my movie, bitch nuts.
Yep.
That's how I would
And
have
that's
written
it?
that line.
That's how this movie ends.
Pretty much. Gail is got a new cameraman.
Yeah.
Guess
she
they
got
sent
one
out a
quick.
new one.
She stole another news station's camera.
Probably. And so she's giving an eyewitness report from the business, and she's all beat up and everything. So
And then I exhale because Dewey's alive.
yes. And he's like, "Hey, I'm going to be all right, guys."
He says, where's Gail? Is the last thing he says.
That is. Yeah. But he does give confirmation that he's doing all right.
I kind of feel like that this is one of those things where Dewey maybe was going to die originally.
And they're like,
they
no, we
loved
can't
him
do
so
it.
fucking much that they had to keep, because he had no reason to be at the college. So they had to kind of write him into that, like, haphazardly after the fact, I would guess.
I think you're right.
But it's kind of like, Aaron...
but they... Yeah, I don't know. Because
Breaking Bad is what I was going to say.
They had to make that decision before, obviously, releasing the first movie. So, wonder
but I mean...
They probably loved his performance so much that they had to keep him around.
My guess is that he tested really well.
Yeah, probably.
In pre-screens.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that, guys, is one of my favorite movies and one of our craziest episodes.
I don't know if any of that is... I don't know if any of the second part of what you said is any good or not. But that's okay.
I'm sure it's good.
I'm sure it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. You know what? I mean, here's the thing. Like I said, I think, while this is not one of my favorite horror movies, it's a fun watch. And certainly one that I'll probably revisit again in 20 years.
20 years, huh?
And that was probably the last time I saw the first one was...
Well, I know that, but I would have hoped in your reappraisal you'd move it up a notch.
20 days.
20? Nice. That's great.
Okay.
That's excellent. I won't even watch it that quickly.
I suddenly become like obsessed with Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I would be interested in checking out 2 again. Because I remember kind of liking that one. I remember not liking the third one and just like, map, done. But and I didn't see 4. But I'll go see the new one. I'll go check out this new one.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it.
Oh, are we now?
Film Seizures at the movies.
Hey, wait a minute. Wasn't there an MTV show?
There was.
Yes. The first season was actually fairly good.
I didn't watch it.
Is it just completely, totally separate from...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
all
fair.
Different cast characters.
That's fair. And like, does it even have any connection?
I think it is in Woodsboro, if I remember correctly,
Okay.
but it's years later. The Scream mask is a little different. They don't use Ghostface, so I don't know if they...
Maybe that's why I think it's Scream
Maybe Scream Face in that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, I got inceptioned into my brain. Anyway, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know if I care enough to watch a series. But,
You don't watch series.
not really.
I mean,
not
let's
really.
be honest.
Did you watch Scream Teens, though?
Yes.
Scream Queens?
Scream Queens. That's right, not Scream Teens.
You
You
correct?
are
No, but you're right.
He's
I
on
had
tilt.
to correct for the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on tilt.
Scream Queens. That was fun.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Had one of my favorite characters
Oh
of
my God, I know.
many last several years.
Mine too.
Yeah. We all have
Radwell,
yep.
baby.
So good.
I just watched a Chad Radwell show.
Oh
They had
God,
him.
yeah.
And what's her name?
He talks about his boner all the time.
and with the security officer.
Oh,
can't
yeah.
remember her name.
Isn't that Niecy Nash?
I think so.
I can't remember her character's name, but
Stephanie
she's
uses
hilarious too.
a line from her all the time, which is, "That's some mighty fine sleuthing." Steph says that still to this day,
she's so
constantly
good.
about
She's
shit.
Yeah, no, that was that was a good show.
Definitely recommend that.
And definitely on the same
Yeah.
referential
yes.
kind of humor and stuff like that the Scream used.
It sounds like the Scream show kind of went more towards the horror thriller, whereas Scream Queens went more towards the comedy.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, guess what, guys?
We got more spoopies.
We got one more spoopies.
Oh,
One more
yes.
spoopies.
Halloween week, guys.
So divisive.
Are you ready? Are you ready for the big giveaway?
The reveal. Jeff was the killer the whole time.
Yeah, so Halloween 3, Season of the Witch is next week to close out Spoopy Month. This is probably not the last scary... Is this the last scary movie we're doing? Hang on a second.
Of
here.
the year?
Of the year next... Oh, I don't know. Chuck still needs to pick a couple for December. We'll see.
I thought I already did.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I definitely did. I'll tell you what they were
Okay.
later.
All right. Anyway, I'll write them down. Anyway, so Halloween 3 is going to be our big. That was one we picked last year. I was like, hey guys, can we do Halloween 3? And I think even before I sent that message, Jason was like, yes. And Chuck, you were just stuck with it.
Yeah. That is normally how this goes.
Well, that's why we gave you Scream. That's why I also gave you Weeks at the end of the. It's like, dude, come on, and then this motherfucker over here is still suggesting movies.
Trying to like talk him into other.
Yeah.
We could
making lobbies for
change the name of this from Film Seizure to Chuck is Stuck.
You got a lot to watch, Chuck. Sorry. Anyway, some of it you like them. Anyway,
I like all of it.
In fact, two of the ones that we have next month, were kind of part of the suggestion for. Anyway, but Halloween 3 is going to be our Halloween week movie next week. Should be good. Should be good. I love this movie. It's an every year October watch for me.
Me too.
Chuck, we don't care what you think.
Well, I'll tell you, I was in the camp originally of the Michael Myers isn't in it, so fuck it. Originally, many years ago. Hang out for my thoughts on this next week.
I love it.
Sweet.
Love it. Next Monday, before we do Halloween 3, I close out my Hammer Halloween with The Mummy from 1959.
I like that one, I think.
Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. No, it's fine. It's an interesting movie. I had never seen it before. I watched it for that. So we got Halloween spoopies all over the place.
Yeah.
We got mummies. We got witch masks. We got pumpkin masks. We got kids' heads exploding into bugs and snakes and things.
Mm-hmm. No scream faces, though.
No scream faces. On the B Movie Enema side, we've got Resident Evil Retribution this Friday. I don't know who needed Retribution for what. It's fine. And then B Movie Enema the series at bmovieenema.com is Allison's birthday, which has the debut
acting debut
of that guy you just heard right there.
Yeah.
I'm
excited.
I don't get any FaceTime.
Yeah, well, no,
that's true.
That is true. We can talk about season 3 down the line.
Okay.
See, that just means you can diversify.
He does. He did, because he plays two very different characters that are very oddly both drunk.
Maybe you'll give me a non-drunk. I'm like the who's that guy we talked about 2 weeks ago that's always drunk?
Oliver Reed.
I'm Oliver Reed
of B Movie Enema the series. Yeah. Except for he's playing drunk, not is drunk. Anyway.
Hide your booze. Hide your
J and B. Chuck's coming for it.
Oh.
Anyway, so thank you, Cameron Mitchell. Anyway.
It's just a little taste.
That was earlier.
That's
but you can go back and watch it. Yeah. You can go back and watch that episode. Anyway, so all of those things, filmseizure.com for our Film Seizure episode and Monster Mondays. You go to bmovieenema.com for the other things. As far as Film Seizure goes, just go to the website. You can find where you can follow us, the Facebooks, the Twitters, all the socials that we do. I have not yet gotten the TikTok, but I don't think we are young enough.
We'll do dances.
You can do dances.
Okay, Steph will do them. She wants to do TikTok so hard.
There we go. And then Steph and Jason. Why don't we stick Jason?
Yeah,
with that?
Jarmo and Steph
show. But anyway, you can find those places. You can also find where our podcasts are. So yeah, man, we're just rolling through October here.
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm sure at some point we already have or will be talking about the new Halloween movie.
Oh, yes.
That I'm going to guess has been review bombed online.
Probably.
We'll get there.
Horror fans are pussies. You heard it here.
Nailed it.
And you've been listening to Film Seizure.
Is that where we're going to end this?
No,
should we just end it?
I wasn't planning on it.
Because I have a thing I want to do.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
What do I want to do?
All right. So, until next time, I'm Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm feeling a little woozy.
And you've been listening to Film Seizure.
Scream face.
We had to end that one.